Metropolis is the grandfather of modern science fiction. Nearly every robot and every towering future city you love traces back to this one silent film from 1927. But the version most people saw was a lie. A quarter of the movie was cut and thrown away. Did you know the real Metropolis was lost for 80 years? Until a rusted film can turned up in a museum in Argentina. Did you know the lead actress was just 17 and fainted inside her costume because she could not breathe? Today we're uncovering 15 hidden truths about Metropolis, 1927, including a secret connection to Star Wars that you will never be able to unsee. Number 1. The movie that vanished for 80 years. When Metropolis premiered in Berlin on January 10, 1927, it ran about 2.5 hours. Audiences were restless. The reviews were mixed. The studio, UFA, was already drowning in debt. So they did something brutal. They handed the film to an American writer named Channing Pollock, who chopped it down for the United States. Whole characters disappeared, entire subplots were cut. Then UFA cut their own German version to match. 2 of the 3 original negatives were destroyed in the process. For the next 80 years, almost nobody alive had seen the real Metropolis. Only shortened, confusing versions survived. Scholars assumed a quarter of the film was gone forever. Then in 2008, everything changed. A film expert in Buenos Aires named Fernando Peña had chased a rumor for years about a print that was strangely long. His ex-wife, Paula Felix Didier, had just become director of a small cinema museum there. Inside a rusted film can sat a worn copy of Lang's original cut, complete with the missing scenes. The lost Metropolis had been sitting in Argentina the entire time. In 2010, the restored film finally played again, almost exactly as Fritz Lang made it. Number 2. The robot that became C-3PO. The most famous image in Metropolis is the robot. She is smooth, human-shaped and metallic, with a calm face and glowing eyes. Her name in the film is the Maschinenmensch, which is German for machine-human. She was built by a sculptor named Walter Schulze Mittendorf, who made a full-body plaster cast of the actress and built the costume around it. That design did not stay in 1927. 50 years later, a concept artist named Ralph McQuarrie was helping George Lucas invent the look of a new space movie called Star Wars. When it came time to design a golden humanoid robot, McQuarrie reached back to Metropolis. Look at C-3PO, then look at the Maschinenmensch. The resemblance is impossible to miss. The same slender metal body. The same human shape. The same shining face. One is a villain, built to spread chaos. The other is a nervous protocol droid who worries too much. But they share the same grandmother. And it did not stop with Star Wars. The robot from Metropolis has echoed through music videos by Queen, Madonna, and Lady Gaga, and inspired the android look of the singer Janelle Monáe. A silent German robot from 1927 quietly became one of the most copied designs in pop culture history. Number 3. The 37,000 extras that never existed. For decades, one number followed Metropolis everywhere. The studio claimed the film used more than 37,000 extras. The official breakdown was oddly specific. 25,000 men, 11,000 women, 1,100 bald men, 750 children. It sounded like the biggest crowd ever filmed. There was just one problem. It was almost certainly made up. In a 1971 interview, near the end of his life, Fritz Lang was asked about those famous crowds. He waved the number away. He said there were never thousands of extras. His own estimate was closer to 250, maybe 300 people. The rest was clever camera work and smart staging. Lang knew how to make a small crowd look like an ocean of bodies. So where did 37,000 come from? From the studio's own marketing department, which wanted Metropolis to sound like the most enormous movie in history. And it worked. The number got printed so many times that people still repeat it today. The lesson is a funny one. One of the greatest films about machines and mass crowds faked its biggest crowd of all, and then fooled audiences about it for nearly 100 years. Number 4. The 17-year-old who suffered for every frame. The woman who plays both the saintly Maria and the evil robot was a newcomer named Brigitte Helm. She was only 17 when filming began. It was her very first movie. She had wanted to study astronomy. Her mother sent her photo to Fritz Lang instead. What followed was close to torture. Lang was a famous perfectionist and a harsh director. The robot costume was rigid and painful, and Helm came away with cuts and bruises. During the scene where the robot is brought to life, she was clamped inside a stiff wooden frame for so long that she fainted. In her own words, she simply could not get enough air. For the climax, where the false Maria is burned at the stake, Lang insisted on using real fire. Helm's dress actually caught flame during the shoot. The night scenes alone lasted 3 weeks and left the whole cast exhausted. Helm never forgot it. She went on to become one of the biggest stars in Germany, but she refused to ever work with Fritz Lang again. She was a teenager who gave everything to a masterpiece and walked away swearing never to return to the man who made it. Number 5. The job offer from a monster. Fritz Lang told one story more than any other. In 1933, the Nazis had just taken power. Lang's newest film had been banned. He said he was summoned to meet Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's minister of propaganda. According to Lang, Goebbels did something shocking. He praised Lang's work, especially Metropolis, and offered him the top job running the entire German film industry for the Nazi Party. Lang had Jewish heritage on his mother's side. He said he smiled, thanked Goebbels, and then panicked. The meeting ran so long that the banks had closed. That very night, Lang claimed, he sold his wife's jewelry and fled to Paris on a train, leaving his money behind. It is a perfect movie scene. There is just one problem. Historians have poked serious holes in it. Lang's own passport shows he traveled in and out of Germany throughout 1933. He did not actually leave for good until July, months after the meeting. Some parts of the tale simply do not match the records. Lang was a brilliant storyteller, and it seems his greatest character may have been himself. He really did flee the Nazis. He just made the escape sound far more dramatic than it truly was. Number 6. The movie that nearly killed a studio. Metropolis was supposed to cost about 1.5 million Reichsmarks. It did not. Fritz Lang wanted the biggest, most ambitious film the world had ever seen, and he chased that dream no matter the price. Filming dragged on for more than a year and a half. There were 310 days of shooting, and 60 nights of shooting on top of that. By the time it was finished, the budget had exploded to more than 5 million Reichsmarks. That was over 3 times the original plan. The producer, Erich Palmer, was fired before the film was even done. The studio behind it, UFA, was one of the most important in the world. Metropolis nearly bankrupted it. When the film finally opened, it was a box office disaster. Reports say it earned back only about 75,000 Reichsmarks against that massive cost. UFA was already deep in debt and leaning on millions of dollars loaned by the American studios Paramount and MGM. Metropolis pushed the company to the edge of ruin. The most expensive film ever made in Germany had become a financial black hole. The cruel twist is that the movie the world now calls a masterpiece almost destroyed the company brave enough to make it. Number 7. The review that called it the silliest film ever. Today, Metropolis sits on almost every list of the greatest films of all time. When it came out, not everyone agreed. One of its loudest critics was a giant of science fiction himself, the author H.G. Wells. Wells wrote The Time Machine and The War of the Worlds. He basically helped invent the genre. And he hated Metropolis. In a famous review, he called it the silliest film he had ever seen. He said it was packed with just about every foolish idea about the future you could imagine. He mocked its science. He mocked its politics. He complained that its vision of tomorrow was already out of date. Coming from the most respected science fiction writer alive, it was a brutal takedown. There is a strange irony here. Wells thought Metropolis was clumsy and wrong about the future. Yet it is Lang's film, not Wells's complaints, that shaped how the world would picture the future for the next 100 years. Sometimes the loudest critic is simply standing too close to see what everyone else will see later. Metropolis outlived the insult. Number 8. The mirror trick that built a city. Metropolis is filled with a vast future city, towering skyscrapers, roads in the sky, cars crawling between giant buildings. In 1927, there were no computers and no digital effects, so how did they do it? The answer was a clever illusion called the Schuftan process, named after the effects wizard Eugen Schuftan. Here is the trick. He placed a mirror in front of the camera at a precise angle. Part of the mirror's silver coating was scraped away, leaving clear glass. Through the clear part, the camera filmed the real actors on a small set. In the mirrored part, it captured the reflection of a tiny, detailed model of the giant city. On film, the two blended into one seamless world. The actors looked like they were standing inside an enormous metropolis, when really they stood in a modest space beside a miniature. It was so effective that other filmmakers rushed to copy it. Just 2 years later, a young director named Alfred Hitchcock used the very same mirror trick in his film Blackmail. A single sheet of angled glass helped build the future, and quietly changed the way movies faked reality for decades to come. Number 9. The 500 Children in Freezing Water. The most powerful scenes in Metropolis come near the end, when the underground city of the workers floods. Water crashes through the streets. Children run and scream and reach for help. It looks terrifyingly real. That is because, in many ways, it was. To film the flood, Fritz Lang brought in around 500 children from the poorest neighborhoods of Berlin. For about 2 weeks, they worked in a huge pool of water. Lang, chasing realism, deliberately kept that water at a low temperature. These were hungry kids from struggling families, standing for hours in cold water, so the scene would feel authentic. Lang pushed the adult extras hard too. Accounts describe him ordering people to throw themselves toward powerful jets of blasting water to sell the panic on camera. By the standards of any era, it was dangerous and harsh. It produced unforgettable footage. It also reveals the darker side of the man behind the masterpiece. Fritz Lang would risk almost anything and almost anyone to get the shot he saw in his head. The terror on screen was real, because for those children, the ordeal was real too. Number 10. The Hidden Name in the Pleasure District. Here is something you can watch for the next time you see Metropolis. When the evil robot Maria is unleashed on the city, she goes to work in a wild nightclub full of rich young men. That club has a name. It is called Yoshiwara. If the name sounds real, that is because it is. Yoshiwara was a famous red light district in old Tokyo, back when the city was called Edo, centuries ago. It was one of the most well-known pleasure quarters in all of Japanese history. Fritz Lang and his wife did not invent that name out of thin air. They borrowed it on purpose. By naming the sinful heart of their future city, after a real place of temptation, they were sending a quiet message. The same human desires that ran through old Tokyo would still be running through the city of tomorrow. It is a tiny detail, easy to miss, tucked into the neon signs of the film. But once you know it is there, you cannot unsee it. A silent movie about the far future reached all the way back to old Japan to name its den of vice. Number 11. When Freddie Mercury remixed a silent film. In 1984, something bizarre happened to Metropolis. An Italian music producer named Giorgio Moroder decided to bring the silent classic back to life for the MTV generation. Moroder was a disco legend. He paid $200,000 for the rights to the film. According to reports, he outbid the rock star David Bowie to get them. Then he transformed it. He added color tints to the black and white images. He replaced the old title cards with modern subtitles. And most shocking of all, he gave the silent film a loud, glossy pop and rock soundtrack. The songs came from some of the biggest stars of the 80s. Freddie Mercury of Queen recorded a track for it called Love Kills. Pat Benatar, Bonnie Tyler, Adam Ant, and Billy Squier all took part. Silent film purists were horrified. Fans of 80s music were delighted. That same year, Queen paid tribute again. Their music video for Radio Gaga is filled with clips from Metropolis, and it ends with the words, "Thanks to Metropolis." A film from 1927 had become an 80s music sensation. Love it or hate it, Moroder introduced a whole new generation to a movie they might never have watched. Number 12. The Woman Who Wrote It and Stayed for Hitler. Fritz Lang gets most of the credit for Metropolis, but the story was not his alone. The film was based on a novel written by his wife, a woman named Thea von Harbu. She also co-wrote the screenplay. She was one of the most important writers in German cinema, and Metropolis came from her imagination as much as his. The studio was so confident in the story that it played a clever trick. Before the novel was even published, they ran it in a magazine, filled with photos from the movie that was still being made. It was one of the earliest examples of a book and a film promoting each other. But the partnership between Lang and von Harbo did not last. When the Nazis rose to power, the couple split in the sharpest way possible. Lang fled Germany. Thea von Harbo stayed. She became a supporter of the Nazi Party and went on to write films under the new regime. The two visionaries who dreamed up one of cinema's great warnings about a broken society ended up on opposite sides of history. The woman who helped imagine Metropolis chose to remain in the real nightmare that followed. Number 13. The lab that every mad scientist copied. Picture a mad scientist's laboratory. You already know what it looks like: bubbling glass tubes, crackling arcs of electricity, strange machines covered in switches and dials, a brilliant, dangerous mind at the center of it all. That whole image owes a huge debt to one character in Metropolis. His name is Rotwang, the inventor who builds the robot. He is the original modern mad scientist of the movies. He is a genius, he is obsessed, and he even has an artificial hand. His electric laboratory, where the robot is brought to life in a storm of light and energy, set the template for almost every mad scientist scene that came after. Think of the lab in Frankenstein, made just a few years later. Think of Dr. Strangelove. Think of Doc Brown in Back to the Future. Think of Dr. Evil. So many crazed movie geniuses trace their look and their energy straight back to Rotwang. Fritz Lang did not just predict future cities and robots. He accidentally created the visual blueprint for the movie Mad Scientist. Nearly a century later, filmmakers are still lighting their laboratories the way Metropolis did first. Number 14. The first film the world called a treasure. There are countless honors a movie can win: Oscars, festival prizes, spots on best of all time lists. But Metropolis earned something rarer than any of those. In 2001, the United Nations cultural body, UNESCO, added Metropolis to its Memory of the World Register. That register is not just for movies. It is a list of the most precious documents and works in all of human history. It sits alongside things like the Gutenberg Bible and the original handwritten score of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. These are treasures meant to be protected for all of humanity, forever. And Metropolis made history there too. It was the very first film ever added to the register. Out of every movie made in the first 100 years of cinema, this silent German science fiction epic was chosen to lead the way. Think about that journey. This is the same film that flopped on release, the same film that nearly bankrupted its studio, the same film that H.G. Wells called silly, and that was chopped to pieces and nearly lost. It went from box office failure to an official treasure of the human race. Few movies have ever been redeemed so completely. Number 15. The music that became a treasure map. When the lost footage was found in Argentina in 2008, restorers faced a giant puzzle. They had the missing scenes back at last. But where exactly did each piece belong? The film had been cut and rearranged so many times that the correct order was a mystery. The answer came from an unexpected place: the music. The original score for Metropolis was written by a composer named Gottfried Huppertz. He did not just write pretty music. He timed his score precisely to the action on screen, scene by scene, moment by moment. He even wrote detailed notes by hand about what was happening in each part of the film. For decades, that handwritten score sat quietly in the archives. When restorers rebuilt the movie, Huppertz's notes became their treasure map. The music told them how long each scene should run and where the lost footage belonged. A piece of the original from 1927 helped put Metropolis back together more than 80 years later. Huppertz also hid clever touches in his score, quoting the French anthem La Marseillaise and the ancient funeral chant Dies Irae. The man who scored the film could never have known that his music would one day rescue it from being lost forever. Beneath the trivia, Metropolis makes one simple claim: the thinkers and the workers can never truly unite without a heart to connect them. Nearly 100 years later, as machines grow smarter and the rich and poor drift further apart, that warning only feels louder. So tell me this: if Fritz Lang could see our world today, would he say we finally found the heart, or that we are still building the same broken city? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you love the secrets behind the films you thought you knew, hit subscribe. Because every week we uncover the stories Hollywood buried in the movies you grew up with.